Alright, so let's look at the performance of Bank Nifty as on the 6th of June 2018. Today, Bank Nifty gained 0.44%, which is a very positive sign for the Bank Nifty. And this shows that even after the repo rate increase, which the RBI announced, RBI's repo rate previously was 6% and now it is 6.25%. So a 25 point basis increase somewhat showed a bearish note for the market, although the markets reacted pretty well to this news. So we need to further look at the option chains to evaluate where the market stance is, although just by looking at this chart it is quite positive. Today the top counters were seen in the IDFC Bank. It gained 7.04%. Then the public sector banks like SBIN, PNB, Bank of Baroda, Federal Bank, all these stocks gained over 2%, which is a very positive sign for the public sector banks. And on the lower side, what I see is that the private sector banks didn't perform that well. Kotak Bank was only gaining 1% by the end of the day. Axis Bank, substantial performance, 0.21% gain. Yes Bank, only 0.67% gain. In ICICI Bank closed at the open price itself, and HDFC Bank only negative 0.3%. So overall, the stance of the private sector banks is not looking pretty decent, although the public sector banks performance or the day's performance are pretty splendid. So now let's look at the option chain data to further evaluate where the Bank Nifty stands. So let's look at the option chains for the Bank Nifty. Today Bank Nifty closed at 26,376. So the at the money option would lie somewhere between 26,300 and 26,400 strikes. Now, even after the strong RBI statement of an increase of 25 basis point repo rate, we expected the market to fall because it was somewhat of a bearish tone by the RBI. Although it didn't happen, but let's look at the option chain data to see where the market is. So let's look at the call side first. Now in the call side of the data, let's start with 27,000 strike. Now at 27,000 strike, the open interest is 16 lakhs. So this is a very important level. The change in open interest is also positive, 2,81,000. So this would act as an immediate resistance for the Bank Nifty for the tomorrow's trading session, because tomorrow is the expiry of this weekly option, which is 7th of June. Now if we look at the strikes such as 26,800, here also we see open interest to be at 9,13,000. Change in open interest is also positive. Then 26,700, the same thing, 9,75,000 open interest. Change in open interest is also positive. So since open interest is increasing in the higher strikes, this is suggesting that the market is in a bullish tone, that the market is expected to increase. Although we see a bit of an open interest in the 26,500 strike. Here the open interest is 12 lakhs and the change in open interest is 3,92,000. So this is another somewhat important level of resistance the market will face if tomorrow the market all of a sudden decides to fall. Then this would be the highest level the market will achieve. And if the market sentiment is positive, if 26,500 is broken in the first few trading candles, like if you follow a 10-minute candle or a 30-minute candle, if 26,500 is broken pretty soon, then the market will rally towards 27,000. Now let's look at the put side of the data to see what the situation is. Now let's look at the 26,000 strike first. 26,000 strike has a huge open interest of 12 lakhs and the change in open interest here is 6,80,000. So this is a pretty important level of support for the Bank Nifty for tomorrow's trading session. And if we go lower, then 25,800 also has a decent amount of open interest, and the change in open interest here is also decent. So this is another level of support if the market all of a sudden decides to fall rapidly after hearing the increase in reserve repo rate. So this is another level, but I mostly would count on 26,000 level to act as a support. And if we look at strikes such as 26,100, here the open interest is 5,83,000. Change in open interest is also positive, and the 26,200 strike also has a similar story. Open interest is 7,36,000 and change in open interest is 2,59,000. So the story of this option chain data is a bit confusing because we see open interest to increase in both the sides of the data, the call side as well as the put side, because the market couldn't decide which way was better after the announcement of the reserve rates. So we need to watch the market carefully tomorrow. If the market is very volatile, all the traders who trade in the Bank Nifty index options or futures, please avoid trading tomorrow if it is very volatile, right? So now let's look at the technical charts to further evaluate how the scenario is. But before we do, I've just forgot to mark the heroes for tomorrow's trading session. So tomorrow's trading session will have the hero at 26,000 zone first. Let me just write perfectly. So 26,000 zone, and on the upper side, the resistance, the maximum resistance would be faced at 27,000 zone. We might have a bit of resistance at the 26,500 zone as well. So tomorrow's trading range is anywhere between this entire zone because the volatility is not yet seen by the Indian markets. We will see the volatility tomorrow, I presume. Okay. So let's look at the technical chart for Bank Nifty for tomorrow's trading session, which is the 7th of June, which is an expiry date for Bank Nifty. So we can expect a bit of volatility. Now, as usual, I only use 3 indicators. One is the super trend indicator, which gives me buy-sell signals, and I take my positions in the futures and options based on these signals. I have a moving average of 26 and a default setting 90. Now my indicator had given a sell signal on the 4th of June and the market has been down ever since. Now as per the option chain data which we saw earlier, we see a huge amount of resistance at the 27,000 strike. So this would be the first level of resistance. Let me just change the color to deep blue. Okay. Now since tomorrow is expiry, we might see a bit of volatility. And then if 27,000 is broken due to a very positive movement by the Bank Nifty, we might be heading towards the 27,500. Although just consider 27,000 for the time being. On the lower side, we saw the strike, which has the highest amount of open interest, be at the 26,000 level. So this would be our level of support again. This has been our support for the past 3 trading days, and this support was not broken. And if this level is broken, then we might move towards the 25,640 levels. We might see a bit of volatility in tomorrow's trading session. So for all those day traders who enjoy trading in the 15 or 10 minutes candle patterns, if you feel that tomorrow is not your day, then please do not trade tomorrow. We will have better opportunities.